Hello everyone, you're welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Nancy, and if this is your first time coming across my channel, kindly hit the subscribe button and also turn on your notification bell so you'll be the first to be notified when I upload new tutorials. In today's class, I'm going to be sharing with you guys on how to make this dress with an underbust corset. So if this is something you're interested in learning, keep on watching and let's get started. So guys, to make this dress, you'd be needing about 2.5 yards of your African print fabric. Now to draft out the pattern, I have the pattern paper folded into two. So first, I'm going to draw a straight line across the top of the pattern paper. And this line is called the starting line, and it can also be referred to as the shoulder line. And from this starting line, I'm going to come down to my bust point. My shoulder to bust point for me is 9.5 inches, so I marked it here. Still leaving the tape at the starting line, I'm going to mark my shoulder to under bust. And the next measurement which I'm going to mark is my shoulder to waistline, which is 15 inches. So now I'm going to draw straight lines across all these points I marked. So now I'm going to go ahead to label these lines. This is the shoulder line. This is the bust point line. This is the under bust line. And this is the waistline. So now let's go ahead to add all our body measurements. And this side of the pattern paper is the center fold of the paper. Now from my shoulder line, I'm going to come in by 3 inches to mark my neck width. For a plus size person, you should use 4 inches. And for the neck depth, I'm going to go down from the shoulder line to mark 8 inches. And because I want it to be a V-neck line, I'm going to connect these 2 points with a straight line. So again, on my shoulder line, I'm going to go in to mark half of my shoulder measurement. So that would be your shoulder measurement divided by 2, and you will make a mark here. Now from this point I marked, I came down by 1 inch and I connected it to the neck width. And this is for my shoulder slope. Now the next thing I'm going to do is to get my armhole depth. And to get your armhole depth, you are going to divide your bust measurement by 6, and you would add 1.5 inches to whatever you get. So when I divided my bust measurement into 6 and added 1.5 inches to it, I got 7.2 inches. So I marked it here. Now I'm going to draw a straight line across this new point I marked. And this new line will be labeled as my chest line. Now once you are done with this, you are going to connect the shoulder slope with a straight line to meet the chest line, just like you see me doing. So I'm using my pencil to do this, and this new line is for the armhole. So now I'm going to place my tape measure on the armhole line to mark the midpoint. So I'll do this by folding my tape into two to mark the midpoint here. And then from this midpoint, I'll go in by half of an inch. Now back to the chest line, I'm going to divide my bust measurements into 4. So I'm going to place my tape measure from the center fold of the paper here to mark my bust measurements divided by 4. So now I'm going to connect these 3 points together from the shoulder slope to the midpoint and to this new point I marked on the chest line. So make sure you're using your curve ruler to connect these 3 points together. And this is going to give you your armhole curve. Now the next thing I'm going to do is that from the center of the bust point line here, I'm going to go in by half of my nipple to nipple measurement. And from the center of my under bust line, I'm going to go in to mark half of my nipple to nipple measurement. On the waistline as well, I'm going to go in to mark half of my nipple to nipple measurement. And then I'll go ahead to connect these 3 points together with a straight line. So once you're through with that, the next thing you're going to do now is that on the waist, you're going to be marking half of an inch on both sides of this line here. So this is for the dart. Now you'd connect these 2 points to meet the top of this line here. So I'll connect this point to meet the top of the line here, and I'll connect this other point to meet the top of the line as well. So after I've done this, I'll go ahead to add my body measurements. On the chest line, I already marked my bust measurement divided by 4. Now on the bust point line, I'm also going to be marking my bust measurements divided by 4. And on the waistline, I would mark my waist measurements divided by 4, which I marked here. Now for the dart intake, which is the distance between these 2 points here, this is 1 inch. I'm going to replace this 1 inch dart on this side. So after you've marked your actual waist measurement, you go ahead to replace the dart intake. Now I'm going to go ahead to connect my bust measurement to meet the waist measurement. So once you are done with this, we are going to go ahead to create the curve around the under bust area. So from the chest line at the center here, I'm going to go down to mark 1.5 inch. So from the chest line, you're going to go down by 1.5 inch like I've done here, and you'd make a point there. And for the 1.5 inch I came down by on the chest line, I'm going to connect this new point to meet the under bust line directly on the center line of the dart on the under bust line. So make sure you're connecting this point to meet the under bust line. Do not mark this on another line. Now I'm going to go ahead to blend this curve to meet the under bust line properly. So once you're done with this, you're basically done drafting out the front pattern. Now I'll go ahead to cut out the pattern. So make sure you're paying attention to the areas I'm cutting so that you don't make any mistake. So now I'm going to go ahead to cut out this underbust part, that is this curved area, so that we can be able to slash and spread the upper part. So you're supposed to have two pieces now. I'll be keeping the lower part aside. Now on this upper part here, on the shoulder area, I would place my tape measure to divide the shoulder into two. And I'm going to make a mark here. Now I'm going to connect this point to meet the dart on this line. So now we are going to open up this line so that we can be able to make a little pleat on the cup area. So that is why we are doing this. You would also notice that in the dress we are trying to recreate, there were pleats on the cup area. So once you are through, you are going to cut out the darts from the under bust. So make sure you are doing exactly the same thing you see me doing. And once you've cut it out, you are also going to slit the rest of the straight line towards the shoulder. And on getting to the top of the shoulder here, I would stop slitting to about 1/4 inch away so that you can easily spread out the pattern. But make sure that it doesn't cut out fully. So this is basically all for the upper part for now. So now for the waist area, because I don't want it to have any joining, I'm going to be closing the dart this way. And then I'm going to go ahead to use a sellotape to hold it together so that it won't be in two pieces anymore. So this is basically all for the front pattern. Now I'm going to go ahead to transfer these patterns to my fabric. So now I've placed my pattern on the actual fabric. So I've gone ahead to pin this down. So I'm going to spread out this side of the paper to measure how wide I want this part to be. So this is just 1 inch because I don't want the pleat to be much. Now for someone that is busty, you can keep a distance of 2 inches. So for me, I just opened it by 1 inch. So now on the neck area, I added 1/2 inch. On the shoulder, I added 1/2 inch. On the armhole area, I added 1/2 inch. And at the bottom here, I added 1/2 inch. While for the side, I added 2 inches stitching allowance. So once you are done with this, you would work on the lower part. Now on the waist, I placed my pattern on my actual fabric. Take note that my fabric is folded into two. I added 1/2 inch on the under bust and at the bottom as well. Now on the side there, I added 2 inches stitching allowance. So now I'm going to go ahead to unpin the patterns. So guys, this is my upper part here, and I've also cut out the lining and I've ironed the stay at the wrong side of the fabric and at the wrong side of the lining as well. So this is the actual fabric. I'm going to spread it out this way. So now we are going to attach the upper part to the waist area. But before we do that, we need to make some gathers on the under bust part. So I'm going to be stitching all the way around this area with my gathered stitch. So guys, I'm done stitching the underbust area, and you can see that I did not back stitch and I have threads on the ends of both sides. So now I'm going to pull on one of the threads on this side to form the gathers like I'm doing here. So by the time I'm done pulling, the underbust of the upper part would fit in to the underbust of the lower part. So just make sure you're spreading out the pleats at the center of this part. Now on this other side, I'll go ahead to pick one of the threads as well to do exactly the same thing. So just keep pulling like this. I think I'm comfortable with what I have now. So I'm just going to check if the underbust would fit in with the lower part. So from what I can see, it's actually okay. So now at the lower part here, on the underbust area, I'm going to make a notch at the center of the V shape here. Just a little notch, about quarter of an inch. And then I'm going to place the center of the lower part directly on the center of the upper part here. So I'm going to go ahead to pin this together at the center. So pin it from the center like this, and then I'm going to pin the other part towards the rest of the sides like you see me doing. So after pinning the sides, I'll turn it to the right side of the fabric for you to see how neat it is, even though I've not stitched it yet. Now I'll continue pinning from this other side towards this side as well. Once you're done pinning, you head over to your sewing machine to stitch the underbust together by half of an inch. So guys, this is what I had when I was done stitching it down. Now I'm going to pick the seam allowance here to notch the center of the underbust and the sides as well, so that it will be well relaxed around the underbust area. So guys, this is how it is in front. You can see it came out beautiful, and the cup is also fine as well. So after I was done, I did the exact same thing for the lining pieces as well. So what I'm going to do now is to place the right side of the lining on the right side of the actual fabric facing each other, and then I'll go ahead to pin the neck area together, and to also pin the sides together as well. After pinning, I'll head over to the sewing machine to stitch the neckline by half of an inch and to also stitch the sides by half of an inch. So guys, this was what I had after stitching the neckline and the sides, and I went ahead to notch the center of the neckline before turning the fabric to the right side. So now you can see that it's looking very neat on both sides. Now I will head over to my ironing board to iron it properly. So this is the outcome of the front piece. And I've also gone ahead to make the back. It's just a regular straight back. So I just wanted to show you guys how to make the bustier and the underbust corset in front. Alright guys, so one thing I like to do is to confirm if both the front piece and the back piece of the upper part is equal before joining it to the skirt. So to be sure about this, you would fold the front piece into two and then you place it directly on the back piece. So from what I can see here, the length of both the front and the back piece is equal, and this is for the zipper allowance here. So once you're sure about this, then you are good to go. So guys, I've also made the front piece and the back piece of the skirt behind the camera. Now the next thing we're going to do is to place the right side of the skirt on the right side of the upper part this way to stitch the waist by half of an inch. And also for the two back pieces, I'll be placing the skirt this way, right side of the skirt directly on the right side of the back pieces to stitch the waist by half of an inch. So after joining the waist together, I also went ahead to fix the zipper, and I also joined the shoulder of both the front piece and the back piece as well. And once you are done with this, you are going to place the front and the back piece on each other, right sides of the fabric facing each other. So now I've gone ahead to mark my actual bust measurements, waist and hip measurements as well. And now I'll head over to the sewing machine to stitch the sides. After stitching the sides, I turned the dress to the right side of the fabric. Alright guys, so this is the final outcome of my dress. You can see how beautiful it is. So make sure you take your dress to the ironing board to iron the dress properly. So the final step is to attach the sleeve to the armhole of the dress. So I decided to use a funnel sleeve, and if you're interested in learning how I made this funnel sleeve, I'll be dropping the link in the description box. So this is the final outcome of my dress. Kindly subscribe and also turn on your notification bell so you'll be notified when I upload new tutorials. Thank you for watching and see you in my next one.